I'm the voice of this USF Pro Championships. Looking forward to what should be a tremendous weekend of competition here on the streets of Toronto. Always a challenging circuit. The differences in the racing surface itself, the asphalt, the concrete, always exciting for the young drivers here as they try to work their way up the ladder to the NTT IndyCar Series. Green flag has flying, and we are underway with qualifying for race number 1 for USF 2000. We'll follow it with our USF Pro 2000 category. And again, those of you who are at home tuning in, here's our first shot of the drivers coming out of pit lane. Joining me here in the announcer's booth, as he does each year, the voice of this Honda Toronto Indy, Todd Lewis. Great to have you with us here, and great to be alongside you in what is really your booth here this weekend.
Oh, it's a pleasure. This is great to have these cars, the USF 2000 cars. We see the stickers flying. They won't be lasting probably to a corner 3 on some of those cars on those Cooper tires. They'll be gone as they start to get and generate heat into them. 20-minute qualifying session. You should give you plenty of time to get laps in, but it's not a lot of time to really get business done today.
The key thing is these drivers were the actual first racers onto this track here this morning, and it was very dirty, was very slippery, and we did have a couple of drivers make early mistakes, not heeding the advice of myself, the coaches, their team owners, to really watch out, because the opening sessions of any of the times we come up here to Toronto, track's obviously super dirty. People were walking on it, they were putting the track together, no rubber was down, and we did have some drivers making mistakes, and by doing that, you see how they're slipping and sliding around right now, just starting to build some heat into these sticker tires. Brand new tires. They have not been on the racetrack as of yet. It's going to take a lap or two to kind of clean them off a little bit, and that's how you can make a mistake, because this track, Todd, as we know, changes a little bit every year. Even if you've been here before, you have to kind of find the intricacies. Sometimes they move some of the barriers a little bit. You saw one driver just touch the barrier, I think potentially coming out of turn number 11. That's a sketchy part of this racetrack. That's the big thing about Toronto. The opening laps, you just have to find out where everything is again.
And get used to the new surfaces. There's been a long stretch through corner 9, 10 towards 11 that has been resurfaced. That's fresh new asphalt, nice bit of grip there, but it changes quickly as you get out onto the front stretch coming out of corner number 11.
And the big thing about that 9-10 complex where they have put the new pavement down is right in the middle of turn 9 as you turn in, there's a bit of a dip down to a sewer grate where obviously the water is going to come if we do get rain throughout this weekend. So again, a couple of drivers tried a different line, dropped the left wheel into that, and the minute they did, the car unloaded. We saw Ricardo Escoto into the wall. In this category, Chase Gardner, about 7 laps into his session, tapped the wall a little bit, and he had to come to pit lane as well. Key for these drivers right now, get these tires up to temperature. Don't go too crazy. Calm down, get settled in, get back in your groove, and then bang out the fastest lap. Unlike some categories, Todd, where maybe, lap 2, lap 3 is the optimum window, these drivers can go to the very end of a 20-minute session. Normally, it's fastest at the very end, so you don't need to push as hard coming out of the gate.
You can see even on these opening laps still that number of these cars are kind of sliding a little bit through the corners, still feeling a little bit slippery and getting used to the track surface that feels probably very different than it did first thing this morning because we've had so many other cars on track and rubber go down.
That is very key for the drivers here in USF 2000, and again, Pro to follow, as this track is going to be drastically different. For USF 2000, the Pro drivers were out there, the Radical drivers were out there, a bunch of laps for the drivers in the Pinty's NASCAR program as well, so the track's been cleaned off, the rubber's been laid down, track's going to be a lot different, but still, we had that great shot of them coming out of turn 11 onto the front straightaway, and you can see almost everybody in kind of a four-wheel drift managing that and staying out of the wall. Everybody being smart. I would be leaving, like these drivers are, a foot or two. There's no need to press coming out of turn number 5 here now. You're just setting up for the 6, 7, 8 combination anyway, so wall right there, Elliott Cox just brushing the wall on the outside. That's how close these drivers are driving on the ragged edge.
Just brushed the banner on the outside of that concrete wall to loosen it up just a little bit. If he had gone another bit to the right about the thickness of that banner, I'm not sure he would have come out clean.
And tough one. Remember, these are the opening laps on the racetrack for Elliott Cox. We talked about this in morning practice. He didn't get into the wall in the opening lap, went out just out of pit lane, and the engine went into limp mode. So there was obviously an issue with the electronics, so he was on the track. They had to bring him back in. So no time at all for Elliott Cox. I think he got 1 lap at the end. So for Elliott here in the number 67 drive planning machine for Sarah Fisher-Hartman Racing Development, this is his opening lap. So he's already hanging it out a bit. Maybe dial it down. Elliott, back to 75%. We don't want to see you in the wall. because, again, a 20-minute session. We're about a quarter of the way in now, Todd. Almost 4.5 minutes, coming up to the 5-minute mark of a 20-minute run. These drivers just starting to build heat into the tires.
Garcia, Douglas, Papasavas, Corey, and Gardner are running the top 5 now. We'll expect the times to come down a little bit too. 1:14's flat, 1:14.3 for the next couple. So probably some quicker speeds, as you mentioned.
Down, but you can still see them skating around as we get rolling here. Lockie Hughes, your driver who is currently second place in points, top of the charts with a 1:14 flat. Garcia, Max Garcia for Pabst Racing, just 14 years of age out of Coconut Grove, Florida, now runs in second. Papasavas in third. These drivers dancing on the ragged edge coming out of 11. Wow, that's a tough part of this racetrack.
They have reconfigured the pit lane wall just a little bit, and it tightens up corner number 11 on the track. They've widened the exit to pit lane to make it a little bit easier for drivers to exit side by side, but it has tightened up corner number 11, and I don't think you want to be side by side with anyone going through there.
A couple of drivers having issues. Joey Brienza tapped the wall as well in that opening stanza, that practice session, so he's just starting to get things dialed in. Matt Clark is in the pit lane in the number 1. He had a pretty solid session. Mac was P7, just 0.8 of a second back in the practice session. Again, a rookie driver in the series, and that's a key thing to remember. There are drivers that were here last year. We only have a handful, actually, that are not rookies this year who have come back for another season here of USF2000. We expect to see a number, I would say a majority of the drivers in the category this year stay in USF2000 for 2024. Some are going to move on to the USF Pro 2000 class. That's, of course, the planned transition up to the next level. But as rookie drivers, a bunch of them are going to stay back and go for that championship. There's the number 7 of Al Morey, the 4th, hanging it out coming out of turn number 11. And that corner, Todd, giving us, I think, a really good indication of the level of grip. They're kind of tossing something around a little bit.
Yeah, it's a handful to hang on to that car through that part of the track. Not to mention a couple of others as well. We haven't talked in this session yet about the change in surfaces. There's asphalt, fresh asphalt in a couple of areas. Yep. We've got older track surface with pavement, and then of course we've got concrete through a number of the different corners as well.
And right here, right as they come into turn 5, right at the bottom right of the screen, that's brand new concrete where we saw some chunks come up last year. Now to get through here cleanly, they've redone that, but that's going to be a lot different, a way different surface than normally, and that's right when you're transitioning into the corner as well. So the challenge huge here for the drivers in USF 2000. And I would tell you this, I would expect the NTT IndyCar Series guys are watching what's happening in every one of these sessions. They're talking about some of these places where the manhole covers are, where they've got the drains, especially coming through that 9-10 combination. I think a lot of guys will be out looking at that throughout the weekend.
Kind of curious to see what's happening with the 1 of Matt Clark. He's been stuck on 3 laps for a while, currently well down in the 17th position.
I'm wondering whether or not did they go out, scuff some tires in for the race, and we're going to go back out. That's a bit of a risky move with only a 20-minute session. Had he got 3 laps in, and then here we are now closing in on the halfway point. What happens if we have a red that takes forever and he doesn't even have a lap in the books? So potentially scuffing some tires. If indeed they did that, he'll be back out on fresh tires again, because a set number of tires, 3 sets of tires for the entire sessions here with doubleheader weekends.
Looks like he has just completed a 4th lap, so we'll see if he starts to improve his position. But had himself a terrific weekend a couple of weeks ago at Mid-Ohio with 2 third-place finishes and a race victory, really to assert himself back into the discussion at least for the season championship with 5 rounds remaining.
Yeah, for him, the start of the season didn't go quite as planned. They were kind of dialing in a new race car for him and kind of getting the platform the way he wanted it. And it's obviously starting to play out midway through the season. The car was back to what he felt like it was last year when he ran the finale at Portland and was able to get a race win there. Indeed, as you said, it's been a good little run for him right now, starting to put some runs down. Got the win, of course, on the oval in the Freedom 75. I think that was huge for him to get that first oval win as well.
Yeah, sounding like it afterwards, he was just huge relief, a little bit of a burden off the shoulders, because you understand that that the car is fast, that you've been fast, and we talked about it earlier this morning, getting that first victory and the confidence boost that it gives you.
Evagoras Papasavas, who was quickest this morning, a winner at Mid-Ohio, getting that monkey off his back with his first career win. Started later in the season last year and had to sit out for some surgery that he had. So he did talk about the fact that he really likes this racetrack, and he was pretty good here last year with Papasavas, the driver out of Ohio for Jay Howard Driver Development. He's up top with a 1:13.3. Like I said, potential high 1:12 maybe coming in here. He has 5 thousandths quicker than Max Garcia. Lockie Hughes runs in 3rd. Jacob Douglas 4th. Nikita Johnson now 5th. 6th is Sam Corey. 7th, Al Morey. 8th, Chase Gardner. 9th, Logan Adams. And 10th, Nico Christodoulou, the Toronto driver who runs more steadily over in the GB3 series in Europe. Great to have him back here with VRD Racing to run with us here. His first run here at Toronto. And then there's Simon Sykes in the pit lane, your current point leader, back 11th now. I would expect the same thing, likely getting out there, setting a banker lap, bring those tires in, put some fresh rubber on, use those scuffed tires for one of the races here this weekend.
This is also part of the learning for the USF 2000 drivers as they make their way through the USF 2000 championship and hopefully moving on to Pro 2000 next year or at some point in the future, is understanding and managing through the race weekend. You mentioned they'll be scuffing tires. They have a number of sets that they'll want to use, but managing your equipment through a race weekend, a practice, a qualifying session, and then 2 races to come still on this weekend.
And I think some tracks will like it better when you roll out in sticker tires. Maybe a track like this where it could be a little sketchy. Maybe you want to have a little better grip immediately, especially coming through turn 1, 2, 3, down into 3, the different corners up into 5. With the different surfaces, if you have scuffed tires, they're going to come up to temperature quicker than a fresh set of tires. So I'm not surprised to see some drivers. Yeah, there you go. Paps Racing essentially bringing everybody in. Sykes already came in. He's got a lap. He's 13th, but he's on different tires now. Both Garcia and Douglas have run their laps. They put their banker laps in. Now they'll get tires changed. They'll come back out. So a bunch of teams are using the pits to bank some laps and then get some scuffed tires off the car. They're going to be really good for the races on Saturday and Sunday.
Just about 8.5 minutes to go remaining in this 1. Pretty quick time.
Yeah, look at the guys further back right now. Elliot Cox, 14th. He only got 1 lap in the books. You got Joey Brienza, only had a couple laps in the books. I think 3 laps for Brienza as well. So he's just starting to get up to speed now. This is really, for him, his opening lap. As you can see, drivers coming out. That's the 24 of Garcia. He was P3 before coming into pit lane. I believe that's Lockie Hughes there as well, who's come in to get some tires. Yeah, Lockie Hughes in the number 8, the Aussie for Jay Howard Driver Development. Multi-time winner on the season so far for Lockie Hughes. He won at St. Pete. He won at Sebring. He won at IMS. He won at Road America. Broke the streak, though. Wasn't able to win at Mid-Ohio. Had some troubles there. A rollover flip contact between he and Sykes really changed the complexion of the championship there, as he was not able to start the next race either. So there's lots going right now for Simon Sykes to potentially go after that scholarship.
We mentioned managing the equipment and drivers that are coming in and changing tires. This is not the quick pit stop that you'll see in the NTT IndyCar series. This is a process to go through to change tires as well. They're hand torquing those lug nuts that they put back on the car, so it does take a little bit longer than the 7-second pit stop.
It's a really good point. It's not, we're not coming in 8 seconds down and away, right? It's going to take some time, and there's a wing. Somebody has lost a wing coming into turn number 8. So somebody probably got back into the front. That's it right there. The number 18 has lost the front wing coming through. So an issue there for the 18, or that might have been the 19 of Scully. That's, I think, potentially the 19 of Gordon Scully, who has lost the front wing. The 18 and the 19 looking similar. Both those are VRD cars. The 18 actually not in competition here this weekend. So indeed, an issue there. The 14, the 17, and the 19, all the cars for VRD Racing. That looks like Gordon Scully potentially losing the front wing off that machine. Although I thought I just saw Scully roll by. We'll keep an eye on who it was. Regardless, one of the drivers has lost a wing, and that's going to essentially end that run. They'll have to come into pit lane. 6.5 minutes to go. Papa Sava still on top. Nikita Johnson, second place in points right now, tied with Lockie Hughes. He's second. Max Garcia third. Jacob Douglas fourth. Hughes fifth. Simon Sykes with that 40-point lead coming in, sits in sixth spot. 7th is Logan Adams. What a great run for the rookie Logan Adams, up into 7th on a challenging circuit. And for that wing, it's nowhere near the racing line, so we don't really need to worry about it. Yes, we could go full course, but no need right now. It's far enough outside the racing line, coming into the braking zone of turn number 8, so we won't worry. And there's a mistake right there. Elliot Cox has tapped the wall. Elliott, you can see right damage. He's trying to get back to pit lane. He's going to stock everybody up here, and that's tough for those guys because where that happened, right at the alternate timing line. Horrible.
Messed up a whole bunch of qualifying laps for the competitors behind him.
Matt Clark being one of them.
Yeah, you can see that the left rear on the car of the Elliot Cox, the number 67, tapped the wall. It is askew, and with 5.5 minutes remaining, his session's going to be over.
Oh, he's done for sure. So left rear, you have to figure coming through turn at number 7, 6 and probably 6 and 7. Either one of those corners trying to roll it, just got out a little wide, touched the wall, broke the rear suspension, able to salvage it and get back to pit lane, which is great. But like you said, he may end up getting, because of the incident, not bringing up the red, but what he did was slow up a bunch of drivers. He may get an impeding penalty as well, even though the damage didn't bring a full course yellow out. The fact that he had to slow drivers up and essentially ruined 2 of their laps, which is super bad because they're all slowing up to finish a fast lap, and they're not able to get through turn number 8 to put a fast lap down. So tough for all of those drivers.
So now it's a matter of regrouping for those drivers in the remaining 4.5 minutes to try to put in one more quick lap to improve your position in terms of qualifying.
And I like what Matt Clark did there. He was in part of that, and then coming out, knowing that he'd already blown a lap and then blown the lap he just started, he checked way up to give himself a lot of room to the guy in front. He wants to make sure that he's not going to have to worry about the guy in front of him closing up and potentially hurting his place. Because right now, Clark back in that 12th position. Remember, he was 7th earlier today. Right now, it's Papasava still on top by about a 10th, 1:13.050. Again, I think we're going to see a lap very likely in the high 12s. So it's Papasavas, Johnson, Jacob Douglas, the Kiwi, now up to 3rd. Garcia and Hughes 4th and 5th. Hughes is in the pit lane. That'll be it for him, likely. Sykes in 6th, Adams 7th, Maury, Corey, and Christodoulou round out your top 10. Chase Gardner, who only had half a session this morning as well, after tapping the wall over in turn number 10. He's back up to 11th, but again, watch for him to continue to go quicker. He's a second back right now, but a half a second puts him up into 5th. Clark now 12th. Oh, there's a driver's got in contact coming out of turn number 8. Someone has spun and tapped the wall on 8. That could bring up the full course. Because there, he's done. Yeah, that's indeed going to be a full course. Not quite sure which driver that may be. The number 9 of Logan Adams, who made contact coming through there. So again, drivers have gone to pit lane already. We have not yet gone full course. Drivers working out of the corner there. They're on power coming through. The yellow flag will be flying in turn number 8, so drivers will have to check up, and indeed, red flag. So this is going to effectively end the session. Here's the shot here. Watch potentially for the driver to come through. Back on power, lost control, and just tapped the rear wing. There's hardly any damage to the car, which I'm sure Logan will be very happy with. That's going to be just some rear wing damage. But again, you know what that is? That's just trying to roll a bunch of corner speed through there. Another part of the racetrack, Todd, where it's pavement to concrete to pavement again. You roll in, you got the speed set, then you get on that concrete, and the rear end starts to break loose. That's really just a learning experience for Logan Adams of how much speed you can carry to that corner.
And that's what drivers are always trying to do. As you get through successfully, you think, all right, next time around, I'm going to try to carry a little bit more speed through. And you don't know the limit until you go over it oftentimes, and that's what these drivers have found. Just enough to get the car turned around and couldn't correct in time, a light brush against the outside wall, but it's enough to bring out the red flag. It's going to end the day for Logan Adams, and quite likely it's going to end this session. Yeah,
indeed, because he's brought out the red flag, he's going to lose his fast lap, which is tough because Logan Adams, the rookie driver, only in the second weekend with USF2000, has done some F4 racing here this year. Loops it going through. Like you said, you don't know where the edge is until you went over it. Well, he does now, and to be honest, almost best case scenario. Had he missed the wall and just spun, that would have been best case. That's going to be a little damage to the rear wing and likely the mount, so they'll be able to get that fixed. But the big damage was bringing the red flag out. He'll lose his fastest lap. We'll see how far he falls outside the top 10 of 1:13.6 for Logan Adams, 0.8 of a second back. Pushing hard, as we know. His teammate Papasavas, though, will be the benefactor of this. 0.3 of a second up, and I believe, well, listen, there is still 3 minutes to go. We are actually locked that time down. I'm surprised. We've got 18:13 on the session clock. Red flag time now clicking. I think we'll probably end up going checker, but there's still a minute to go, and there's no way that was going to take a lot of time to get him back rolling again.
No, I wouldn't think, and he was right near the entrance to pit lane, so they should be able to move that car out of the way pretty quickly. And if there's enough time to send everybody, now it does look like it's going to take a minute to still move that car out, and now the clock is rolling again. Yeah. It looks like we are going to not get this session back in the green.
I'm kind of surprised they weren't able to just quick jack him around and let him drive back into pit lane. I didn't see that there was any damage, but he was rolling backwards. You never know if he made contact with the wall as he rolled. So, yeah, they're actually putting that car up on the hook. So maybe more damage than we expected there. And again, maybe the damage happened. Did he tap the wall somewhere else? So the spin was not so much to spin, but more damage. They'll take that car back. And again, the AMR IndyCar safety crew quickly on the scene for Logan Adams. I don't know that we'll go back to green, and whether or not it matters or not at all. Our time is winding down, 20 seconds to go. Even if you're able to get back to the flag, unless they're going to give them one more flying lap, because if they did that, we've seen it happen before, I'll tell you this, there are drivers who have laid down big laps. So if we get one more lap here, I'm not sure whether or not we'll get it in. But right now, let me give you a top 10 rundown. Papasavas, nicely, again, as I said, figured high 12s, and that's what we got, a 112.823 for Papasavas. And no, the checkered flag has flown. No more laps to go, and indeed, Papasavas on top, the driver who qualified on pole at Mid-Ohio, won at Mid-Ohio, the momentum, man. I love when it plays into the things I say all the time, because I always say this, when you win races, you open the door, wins breed wins, and it's more the confidence, and Todd, more the momentum.
Absolutely,
right?
And Papasavas to have the quickest time, Nikita Johnson, Jacob Douglas rounding out the top 3, Garcia Hughes finishing up the top 5, and Simon Sykes, 6th quickest, the championship leader.
Not bad. I think he would like to have been farther up, knowing that both of his teammates are ahead of him, both Douglas and Garcia, further up the order. Papasavas with the fast lap, though, as I said, by 0.3. Nikita Johnson and Jacob Douglas, 3 different teams in the top 3 as well. Jay Howard Driver Development, VRD Racing for Johnson, and Pabst Racing for Jacob Douglas, the second-year driver who was very good here, very quick, top 5 runner last year here in Toronto. Garcia in his Toronto debut, 4th. Hughes will start 5th alongside Sykes. So 1st and 2nd in the points are 5th and 6th. And, of course, 2nd for Johnson. He's tied with Hughes. He's up there on the outside of the front row. George Garciarsis ends up in 7th. Al Mori in 8th. Sam Corey and Nico Christodoulou, the VRD Racing teammates, row 5. It'll be Chase Gardner and Matt Clark on row 6. Logan Adams falls from 8th down to 13th with loss of fast lap. Coxon is really only opening session really for him, and we know he tapped the wall, so 10 laps puts him on the outside of row 7, 14th. Maxwell Jameson, Gordon Scully, who lost the front wing, Avery Townsend, Joey Brienza all the way back in 19th spot. Again, really his only time to get on the track. Him being that far back, I want to feel a second off. Something probably wrong with the car, even though he turned 12 laps. Joey's a front runner in the USF Juniors Series, a race winner, so I have to believe something potentially wrong with the 91 that they'll get dialed in. They'll get that figured out for sure. Nonetheless, a pretty good qualifying session. The one good thing about these guys here, we race tomorrow, one race, but they have another full qualifying session for race number 2. So it's not like sometimes, Todd, when we have a triple header, they rely on their second fastest lap for race number 2. They're all going to get a chance to do it again for race number 2 on Sunday.
All right, so yeah, how will the race line up with Lockie Hughes and Simon Sykes along row 3 racing for the championship, and Nikita Johnson, who's starting on the outside of row number 1. Going to be fun to watch.
Indeed. So, folks, those of you tuning in live on the broadcast right now, don't go anywhere. We're still about 13 minutes away from the start of our USF Pro 2000 qualifying run. So stick with us. We're going to keep on the stream here on the USF Pro Championships app and on the YouTube channel as well. Otherwise, stay tuned. USF Pro 2000 qualifying coming up next.
And much more to come here at Honda Indy Toronto on our Fan Friday. We thank you for joining us early. Lots more to come, as Rob mentioned. USF Pro 2000 qualifying. Radicals will be back out. The NASCAR Pinty Series race at 5:10 this afternoon will wrap up our day. A break, and then we'll get you set for USF Pro 2000 qualifying.
You don't want it hot.
We're like any normal family. We just get shorter wait times because we buy and book online at discounttire.com.
So easy.
Which gives us more time for things like...
Oh, come on, Mom.
Ready? And it's all thanks to Kyle. Thank you. Get 30% shorter average wait time when you buy and book online at discounttire.com.
Let's get you taken care of.
It's your Uncle Cooper. Sure, once in a blue moon, you might need your tires for hauling a horse in a hailstorm. But most days, you're gonna need your tires for tougher things, like teaching your sister's kid how to parallel park. Thankfully, these Cooper Enduramaxes aren't just tough, they're everyday tough. Okay, there's a lot of improvement. Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
Get them while they're hot.
We're like any normal family. We just get shorter wait times because we buy and book online at discounttire.com.
So easy.
Which gives us more time for things like...
Come on, Mom.
It's ready.
Wow. Are you sure it's ready?
Oh, it's ready.
And it's all thanks to Kyle.
Thank you.
Get 30% shorter average wait time when you buy and book online at discounttire.com.
Let's get you taken care of.
It's your Uncle Cooper. Your SUV is a multi-purpose tool, like a corkscrew fish scaler. And that means your tires should be multi-purpose too. Like these Cooper rugged Treks. They're tough, but also run smooth as butter. And with dual sidewalls, it's like having a multi-tool that can look like a completely different multi-tool. Don't take that idea, by the way. I'm gonna patent it. Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
This is the USF Pro Championships, the world's greatest motorsports ladder program with a proven formula, where top junior drivers from around the world come to compete across the best tracks in North America, where the opportunity to climb to the top is guaranteed, promoting every champion to the next stage, where champions are made and legends established. 52 races, over 50 up-and-coming drivers, and 3 scholarships valued at over $1.3 million. The USF Pro Championships, tomorrow's champions, forged today.
first qualifying session of the weekend for the USF Pro Championships presented by Cooper Tires, now in the books for the drivers in USF 2000. We'll move up in horsepower, we'll move up in braking capability, downforce, you name it. USF Pro 2000 set to go, and they'll be much quicker than we saw the drivers in USF 2000, although not the greatest opening session. The practice session earlier today for the USF Pros, really only half the time of that 30 minutes leveraged by the drivers, as we had a couple of different incidents on the racetrack. It was USF 2000 reigning champion Michael D'Orlando, who was the quickest this morning with a 111.691. Expect times likely down into the 109s for this one here. And indeed, Michael D'Orlando was fastest over Ricardo Escoto. Escoto, though, Todd Lewis got into the wall there. And again, my name is Rob Howden, folks. Todd Lewis joining me on the PA address system here in Toronto, and of course on the broadcast as well. I talked to Escoto afterwards, just tried a different line. We talked about that kind of grate, that sewer grate that they have coming through turn number 9. It's a bit of a dip coming through that corner through 9 and 10. He tried a different angle, dropped the left rear into it, and at that point said he was along for the ride. Very surprised as he was kind of trying to avoid it, but just hit it in the wrong direction. And at that point, a passenger heading into the wall.
A tricky part of the track as well, going through that 9, 10, 11 complex, because during the practice, which will relate to the qualifying, the timing line is an alternate timing line. It is ahead of the pit entrance. That's where the timing comes up. So drivers will sometimes, let's say, take an unusual angle through those final corners or two, knowing that they don't have to make another strong lap because the timing line is before the pit entrance, and sometimes they'll approach it a little differently than they will during the race.
Yeah, what is your exit? If your exit is to get back over to the right side of the racetrack for turn number 9, that's different. But if your exit is like, I'm just trying to get the best I can, you power your way through, just skim the wall and get to that timing line. You can go straight into pit lane if you get the job done. So, indeed, that's what will happen if you're on a flyer. Drivers will know that, looking at the dash, whether or not they're up or back in terms of their fastest lap so far. But again, we're hoping again for a clean session. We almost got a clean session in USF 2000. Elliot Cox made contact with the wall, but was able to get back to pit lane. He did not bring out the yellow, although it did come out with a slight spin there for Logan Adams, making contact with the turn 8 wall after carrying a lot of speed through the concrete patch of turn number 8, trying to get that last little bit, squeeze that little bit more corner speed coming through turn 8 over to turn number 9. Again, talking about USF Pro 2000, really the top level of what is now the USF Pro Championships, formerly known as the Road to Indy. Drivers from here will graduate them into the Indy Next Series, which is, of course, back being an official part of the NTT IndyCar Series and IndyCar. So drivers working their way around, everybody looking to get some open track. More of everything, as I said, a bump from 175 horsepower to 250 horsepower. Bigger tires, a wider wheel, wider tires, more significant aerodynamics in a more aggressive wing package, and of course different brakes, more braking capability, and different dampers as well.
A little more sophistication as you move up through the USF Pro Championships, and we'll start to see some times and a little bit of debris flying around. That's going to be something that drivers hopefully don't have to deal with as well. Looks like the cars are starting to stretch out a little bit. As the green flag came out, of course, everybody dives and heads for the pit exit immediately, so you tend to have a bunch of cars for the first lap or so before they start to string out, because you want as much open track as you can to get that best lap as you can. And again, similar to the USF 2000 qualifying we saw earlier, we don't expect the quickest laps right away. It will probably come towards the back end of this session.
That's what I feel. If we go green to checker for the entire 20 minutes, you're going to see the fastest laps coming on the very last laps. Again, it's the balance of the fact that our Cooper tires last a long time. There are other series around the world where they kind of train drivers to get a peak in maybe lap 2, lap 3, the push lap as they call it. You have to knock that out. We want the drivers to get more seat time, more track time. The concept is to develop that over to develop how to kind of qualify in a tire that has that peak a couple laps in. So as the fuel level goes down over 20 minutes of running, you can imagine running your car for 20 minutes, how much your even street car is going to burn in terms of fuel. These guys are ripping around here at 7,000 RPM, so they're burning through fuel. So the car will be significantly lighter at the end of the run, and the tires are going to be exactly where they want to be. Now, again, will we see drivers, like we saw in USF 2000, bang out 4 or 5 laps, get the banker lap, get a good lap time in, come in, save those tires potentially to run as scuffed tires for the races, put on fresh Cooper tires for qualifying again for race number 1. Again, 2 qualifying sessions for 2 races as well.
And deciding once again how to manage the equipment, the tires, and the rest of the car through the rest of a busy race weekend. You mentioned that this session is a little different than normal. It is a 20-minute session. Normally you guys will run 20 minutes of green flag session for your qualifying.
Well, let's be real. This is value for your money if you're a fan here at the Honda Indy Toronto. There are so many programs on the docket here. This isn't really, sometimes we go to events where we'll have, really just four categories. USF 2000, Pro 2000, Indy Next, and IndyCar. 4 series. Well, throw in the NASCAR Pinty Series, throw in the Canadian Sports Car Series, the Radical Cup. There is so much racing. So cutting down our opportunity to have a 30-minute window and 20 minutes of green flag. Normally we'll have a 30-minute window, but if we go 20 minutes of green, then we're done. We'll check early. So now for these drivers, it's just that 20 minutes. So don't make any mistakes, because if you make a mistake and you bring out the yellow or the red, you're not going to be liked in the paddock at all.
No, and you will pay the price
yes.
for it as
personally,
as well. Personally, because it sets you back. Kiko Porto just posted the quick time, a 1:11.2 so far, just ahead of Miles Rowe, the championship leader in the 99.
And that is faster than D'Orlando did in the practice. So we're 2 laps in already quicker, a 1:11.2, about 4/10 faster than D'Orlando laid down in that shortened session for the incidents we had. So again, top 5 in the practice session this morning: Michael D'Orlando for turn 3, Ricardo Scotto for Jay Howard, Jace Denmark for Pabst Racing, Joel Grandforce for Exclusive Autosport, and Miles Rowe, your point leader for Pabst Racing and Force Indy. So those were the drivers we watched very quickly there. Miles Rowe, point leader, coming off a win at Mid-Ohio, the most recent victor in the series. A big point lead for him right now, Todd, 64 points up coming into this event, with really only 3 full events to go. Here in Toronto, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, a doubleheader there, and then a tripleheader at Portland. So there's still a lot of racing to go, right? We've got 7 races still, but man, he's to the point right now. If he has a 100-point lead going into the finale, he's got the championship locked. He could lock it at the Circuit of the Americas, but everybody in the paddock wants to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. There's still plenty to race for in these last 2 weekends here in Toronto, then COTA, before heading to Portland. So, and Miles Rowe is approaching it. You have to think too that I have such a significant lead. It's almost, if he wasn't here this weekend, I mean, he would still be in the championship hunt, but he wouldn't necessarily be in the lead. But it's just, you have to think about points racing the rest of the way forward.
And the crazy thing is so counterintuitive to most drivers, right? Anytime I've interviewed a race car driver and you say that question, hey, here we are in this part of the season, you're leading by X amount of points. What do you got? Are you thinking championship? And they to a man will say to you, I'm just going to win races and let that take take care of itself. Right?
If I do well, the championship will look after itself. Yeah.
I'm just here to win races, right? And I don't believe that completely. Like, you got to have in the back of your mind, if you're battling a guy, you know what, I can finish second here. And I think a lot of times guys will look back at a championship maybe where they didn't win the title, and they'll say, why was I scrapping for the race win? Why did I get that aggressive for a race win back in May when here I am now 1 point back? Had I not made that mistake, I could be winning the championship right now. I think I firmly believe, I know that they'll tell you they want to win every race. Scott Dixon doesn't win every race. What Scott Dixon does to win 6 championships is, hey, you know what? I got a fifth place car. I'm good enough to take it to 4th or to 3rd. And then realizing you can't win with it. And that's, man, you see drivers that will put up, how many 5th or 6th place finishes have they made when it could have been a 10th place car? That's how you win championships in my mind.
That's the maturity level that needs to come as drivers make their way through the USF championships as well. Miles Rowe just posting the quick time of 1:09.8, so we're under the 1 minute 10-second mark by a significant amount right now. And we'll expect to see these times drop a little further as we move along.
Now, these guys are putting good laps down. We're 5 laps in. I was just going to say, are we going to see anybody in the pit lane? That was, I believe, Joel Grandforce making the run to pit lane right now. Joel comes into the championship currently 3rd. He was a winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and then got 2nd on the oval at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. He's followed up with a number of good finishes, top 10 finishes in the last 3 races for Joel Grandforce, so he's digging strongly. He's in the pit lane right now, P7 right now for the Exclusive Autosport driver out of Sweden, part of the Swedish invasion. We've seen so many great drivers come over, led, of course, by Marcus Ericsson, Felix Rosenqvist, a lot of great drivers from Sweden coming over here. He's currently in the 7th spot right now. Miles Rowe on top. Francesco Pizzi from Italy for TJ Speed in the 55. He was 2nd place in points coming into Mid-Ohio, but then you look at his results from there. 5th, rather 15th and 17th at Mid-Ohio. It was not a good weekend for him at all. Fell all the way back into the 5th spot in points. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to dig himself back up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the international flavor of the USF Championships as well. It's great to see drivers coming over and understanding that this is a path. It's a proven path that I can take here and find my way through to the top levels of open wheel racing in North America. Just waiting to see where that yellow flag waving at corner number 11. And if there's an issue a little further along, and we've gone to a red flag.
Yeah. So it looks to me like a driver is stopped on the left side of the racetrack just coming out of turn number 11. So I have to believe somebody tagged the wall coming out of turn number 11. Pretty easy for that to happen coming out. And again, we'll have a look at this here. I think we got a shot at it. So here's the coming through. Yep, right in the corner, hammered down. And which driver is that? Is they're going to come by us here? That is going to be Pizzi. That was Pizzi. We just talked about him being P2. And you could see the way that car was unloading coming out. I definitely want to get another look at that. Those of you around the racetrack, have a look at the big screens. We'll give you another shot of Francesco Pizzi coming through turn number 10 and 11. 11 is such a tough corner, Todd. We've talked about it already. We've seen drivers in years past get collected early in a practice session, maybe the first lap out, because it's just so surprising. You're coming through that corner. It's single file. It's bumpy. You're transitioning, as we said, and it looked to me like, I wonder whether or not he may have made contact with the wall already. There it is again. Missed the apex, missed the exit, and that is going to be the entire right side of that race car for Pizzi. And look at that. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's re-rack that again now that we're ready. I have a feeling he's got left front damage too. So let's have a look at this again. We'll get the guys to the truck to have it set up again. I think he hits the inside of the wall trying to clip the corner in turn number 11. It's a very abrupt corner there. I think he hits the inside and then goes to the outside. Watch when he comes through here. You're going to see him come straight. Yeah, look, see the car. You can see the dust. So he has hit the inside of the wall. He's a passenger at that point. Hammers the outside. That's 3 corners. And as he comes up for here, look at the left front. Yeah, it's demoed as well.
Good catch.
That's tough.
That is exactly what happened, because the quickest way through, and drivers will talk about it, Scott Dixon talked about it yesterday, as have other drivers, you want to be as close to the wall as you can on the inside coming through corner number 11. It has been squared off a little bit over the years, but then you immediately want to move to the driver's right to the far side of the track as you're coming out of 11 to set up and pick up as much speed as you can down the straightaway. And if you're a little too tight, as Pizzi was, it catches the left front and it pitches you out to the right side of the track.
And not as high a speed a corner, but that reminds me of kind of a turn 3 at St. Petersburg, where the drivers are really trying to get through onto a very long straightaway down to turn number 4 there, and you'll see guys touch that wall. Just tap the wall on the inside. The minute you do it, it unloads the car. You've got it turned in, you've got it set, and that's when you see them get into the outside of the wall coming out of turn number 3, hard into the wall on the left side. That's what happened to Christian Brooks a year and a half ago, which ended his season making contact with that wall. For Pizzi, tough one. He was pushing pretty hard. You know he was, because he was second. He was sitting second. That's going to drop him now down to 8th. So he loses his fast lap. His second fastest lap drops him down to 8th. So your top 10 right now, as we are on a red flag, with time ticking away. This is the key point right now as well, as there are drivers a bit further back. Christian Brooks has hardly been able to put a big lap in as of yet. Wasn't able to get things rolling in the opening run. He's back to 14th again. So it's Miles Rowe on top by 0.6 of a second. The only driver really to put that big magic lap in yet. Michael D'Orlando, who was quick this morning. He's P2. Salvador De Alba for Exclusive Autosport up into 2nd. Pabst Racing's Jace Denmark in 4th. D-Force Racing's Kiko Porto 5th. Grand Force for Exclusive. Liram Zendelli and Pizzi for TJ Speed 7th and 8th. And then it's Jordan Missig and Jonathan Brown 9th and 10th. Missig in the number 19 for Pabst, and Brown in the number 2 for Turn 3 Motorsports, rounding out the top 10. Miller, Garg, Weir, Brooks, Escoto top 15. Sunder Amurthy, Montiero, St. Jean, and Brewer, the 19 drivers who have laid down laps. That was a hard hit, a double hard hit for Pizzi. First the left front, then the entire right side of the car.
And that's going to be some significant work for the team overnight tonight to get prepared and get that car back and hopefully ready to race tomorrow during the first of 2 races this weekend for the USF Pro 2000 series. And down to 7 minutes now, and hopefully they can remove that car and we can get some drivers back out, because there's not a lot of time on track that the USF Pro 2000 series drivers have had this weekend so far.
Yeah, exactly that, right? We had 10 minutes of a maybe 15 minutes of a session here this this morning is we had a bunch of red flag as we know this morning. So half a session. Now half a session here, 8 minutes and 46 seconds of green flag time here. So they'll do their best they can to get this track back together. The beauty of the race cars, as we know, is the wheels and the suspension on the outside designed to shear off, right? The idea is if the impact happens, that there are shear points that are bolt onto the chassis that are able to shear off. So ideally, they'll be able to pull off the suspension. The only issue ever you have when a driver makes contact with a wall like that, especially a side impact, whether or not the rear tire impacts on an angle that could potentially jam the half shaft back into the gearbox, right? If it gets into the gearbox, then there's major issues there. So we'll hopefully hear that Pizzi's team's able to get that thing back together and that he will start cleanly, potentially from the outside of row number 4 in race number 1 tomorrow. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. But as you mentioned, it is Miles Rowe in that 99 car who is significantly clear of Michael D'Orlando with the second quickest time. And just as this red flag came out, too, you wonder if this has really disrupted everyone, as you mentioned, who have come in, just get tires changed, just getting set to go back out and work on that second set of tires. Then you have the red flag. So, again, that's a further disruption to your weekend.
And with the red flag, they can't work on the cars right now. That's the key. The minute we go back to green, they can, if they want to change tires now, they can do that. They can jump on the car really quickly and change tires, but the time is winding down. We're at 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Yellow flag being thrown still in the corner. Let's see whether or not we're going to be going back to green here momentarily. That would be, as I said, about 5 minutes remaining. It's going to give you a number of laps. It's not like we're at a Road America where the lap time's over 2 minutes, right? We're just over a minute and a bit. We said potentially down to the low 109s we could see here in qualifying. So drivers, I think engines have refired on pit lane. So that's good news. Not so much for Francesco Pizzi because he's likely going to fall further down the order as drivers put down good laps. And definitely not so much for Miles Rowe. He'd be more than happy to see the checkered flag right now. I'll take that bonus point for qualifying on pole. And not only that, $1,500, the Cooper Tire pole as well.
Yes, that's points racing, if you will, if you're managing your championship. But yes, that's good news for Miles Rowe. And fingers crossed we'll get back out to a little more green flag action to wrap up this qualifying session for the USF Pro 2000 Series. As mentioned, they will race tomorrow. The USF2000 Series will race tomorrow. And an additional qualifying session for their Sunday races to come.
The key thing about this program for USF Pro 2000 is the AMR IndyCar safety crew getting back to their spots around the racetrack so we can go back to green with probably 4 minutes to go if we're lucky. Almost $665,000 is the prize money for the champion of this series, the scholarship to move to the Indy Next Series in 2024. There you have it. Green flag flying, and we're underway. Miles Rowe pulling away. Jordan Missy getting around his teammate, Chase Denmark. You can see a number of drivers back have used this opportunity to put on stickers. I would think some may have already been into pit lane. There's a lot of drivers coming out on stickers. 4 minutes to go. It's going to take a couple of laps. This is what I like. As long as we go clean and green through to the end, everybody on stickers is going to be the best they can be on the final lap. We go back to green. Go back to checkers. So this is going to be it. Everybody outside the top 10 right now banking on an opportunity to throw down a flyer right at the end of this 20-minute run.
Fuel will have burned off over the previous 15 minutes, so we got a couple of minutes left. Get those tires up to temperatures. You'll see the drivers weaving down that long lakeshore straightaway to get some heat into those Cooper tires and hopefully put in at least one more quick lap.
Interesting there. Michael D'Orlando, second quick, is right behind Jordan Missig, ninth quick. He is going to want to try to get by him very quickly right now. And in fact, if I'm Jordan Missig, unless I'm trying to run blocker for my teammate Rowe, I almost want to let him go by. Listen, we know this guy's quick. He was the fastest in the morning warm-up. He's second quick right now. If you let him go by, all of a sudden you get a tow from Michael D'Orlando. That may be a good call for Missig, but then again, if you're a company man with Rowe up front, why not try to hold him back a little bit?
2.5 minutes left, and everybody's trying to find some clear space out on track now, too, because you got to have a little room between the car in front of you and behind you if you want to put in that best lap.
Again, drivers will tiptoe their way through turn number 11. This is going to be a challenging corner. I cannot wait to see the drivers in the NTT IndyCar Series hustling their race cars through that corner. It is going to be a handful of car for every one of those talented drivers, many of which, of course, have come through this USF Pro Championship. We're proud, of course, of the drivers that have graduated of our program, the Pato Awards, Renus VK, David Malukas, Felix Rosenquist. So many drivers have come through our series, whether it be 2000, Pro 2000, or now the Indy Next program. I'm excited to see which of our USF juniors makes it all the way, right? Because a guy, Kyle Kirkwood, won every championship all the way up. 2000, Pro 2000, Indy next, all the way, of course, now to his seat with Andretti. We're going to see a driver over the next 5-6 years coming all the way from maybe 14 years of age in USF Juniors to be in IndyCar, which I think we're going to be super proud to see.
Which is the goal of the program. That's you want to come out of go-karts. This is the path to get into open wheel racing and move through to the highest levels in North America. It's proven to be effective for the drivers that you mentioned, all the way up to the IndyCar series, and we'll see more come through.
Every one of the drivers coming through here right now is going to get at least one more lap, because we're like a 109, 110 fast laps, or 123 on the clock. When they come back around, a driver's hit at the wall. That is Jack William Miller, has overcooked into turn number 5, and this is going to bring the red flag out again, and ouch. Everybody on the flyer. Jack William Miller has parked it in the tires on the exit of turn number 5. Fresh tires, concrete. I talked about the corner turning in the new concrete they put down there, and Jack just could not get the thing wound up and turned into the tires. Right front damage, wing damage for sure, and that will effectively end this session. Tough for every one of these racers who are just out trying to lay down a lap. Miles Rowe smiling ear to ear right now. He'll take the pole position with a 109.614. Luckily for Pizzi as well, but all those drivers outside the top 10 that were coming out to lay one down did not get a chance to do it.
No, and that's the frustrating part. As we mentioned, they had the truncated session early this morning with a couple of red flags during the practice session. Now our second red flag. Have a look at the replay here, and Jack William Miller just loses it.
Now he's diving to the inside. He's trying to make a move to the inside of another driver here to get through. He feels like he's getting held up here by Christian Weir, so he dives through. He's just not able to make the corner. He's trying to make look at. He can't even get the corner done. Weir's going to over under him. He just goes straight through. So that was just a little minor driver error. Again, like I said about Jordan Missig and Michael D'Orlando. D'Orlando in his mindset, I got to get by here. I can't get held up. I'm significantly quicker than Jordan right now. I'm P2. I was the fastest guy. D'Orlando able to handle it. Jack William Miller, we talked about the fact that he was outside the top 10. I got to get one down. I can't get hung up behind Christian here right now. I got to get open racetrack. Threw it to the inside to try to make it happen, and just didn't have enough grip to be able to make that corner.
No, you could see that car become unsettled as soon as he dove to the inside. It's just like he's not in control anymore, and it's trying to get a hold of that car to try and make it around that corner.
And to make it inside, you've shallowed the entry, so you got to put more wheel input. The more wheel he put into it, obviously, at that point you're asking too much out of the tire, which isn't even up to temperature yet. Plowed straight up. You can see Weir check up. You can see it coming and tuck back to the inside. So what this means is this is the unofficial lineup for race number 1, which will take place tomorrow. Miles Rowe at a bonus point. Now 65 points up, $1,500 richer with the Cooper Tire pole, 109.615. Michael D'Orlando, the driver, is really trying to fight his way back into the championship, up into the second position, wins in the last 2 races, both Road America and Mid-Ohio. He goes P2. Salvador De Alba, I think maybe a little bit lucky for Salvador De Alba as well. Earlier today, De Alba was 12th on the order in that shortened session. He leverages that. He goes to P3. He'll start on the inside of row number 2 alongside Jace Denmark. Row 3 will be Kiko Porto and Joel Grandforce. On row 4 is Liram Zendelli and Francesco Pizzi, the 2 TJ Speed drivers. Pizzi, I think, very lucky to get out with a 8th place starting position for race number 1. Jordan Missig and Jonathan Brown rounding out the top 5 rows on the grid. Jack William Miller falling back, I believe, to 16th. We have him here in 11th, but I believe 16th. It's going to be Vajoy Garg and Christian Weir, 11th and 12th. Christian Brooks, Ricardo Escoto on row 7, 13th and 14th. Yuvan Sundaramurthy alongside Jack William Miller. Sundaramurthy was looking for a fast lap. He was not able to get one in at all. So indeed, Miller dropping from where he is there, 11th, losing his fast lap. He goes down to 16th. Nicholas Monteiro and Lucas St. Jean, which I'm surprised as far back as he has had some issues here. And Lindsey Brewer, again, didn't get a chance to get that fast lap in either to get to find some more speed.
Only 3 drivers got up to 10 laps during that qualifying session. It was so shortened. And Christian Brooks going to be interesting to see what he can do in the race, starting from the 13th spot in the 44 car this weekend.
And Todd, I'm going to tell you, it's very interesting to me. I would have expected more of the drivers in USF Pro 2000. They're veteran drivers. They've been here before. They know it. We don't normally expect to see mistakes like this out of both Pizzi and Miller. It's not something you would expect to see, especially at this level of competition. But again, it happens. Everybody pushing very, very hard. So regardless, that kind of wraps things up for our drivers here. Todd, we're back at it again tomorrow. Let's do a quick update for those tuning in here on the USF Pro Championships app or YouTube channel. channel. We're back at it again first thing tomorrow morning, 9:15 scheduled start time for USF2000. They'll qualify for race number 2. Right after them, again, it'll be USF Pro 2000. They'll get their qualifying done, the grid ready for race number 2. We'll go head-to-head for the first time. I think 11:30 is when I'm going to be up here getting ready to go with you. Race number 1 for USF Pro 2000, both categories. One race tomorrow, one race in the morning on Sunday. These drivers, they've made things interesting. Let's put it that way on a Fan Friday.
Very well put. Rob Howden, thanks so much. Great job. That's for tomorrow. And then on Sunday, lots more on-track activity to come here this afternoon at the Honda Indy Toronto for our on-track activity. The NTT IndyCar Series coming up at the top of the hour. Radicals to come in the NASCAR Pinty Series as well. A break and we'll get you set for IndyCar on-track action here in Toronto.
Tiffany Gate Fresh.